Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm Drew's co-host, entertainment writer Jim Hill, and he and I are recording this on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019. Lots of animation news has broken, Drew, since you and I recorded our last podcast. First and foremost, the Annie nominations.
Yeah.
And then Frozen 2, was number one at the box office again this past weekend. By the way, speaking of Frozen things, we at least back here in the Northeast, we're dealing with a snowstorm that started on Sunday night and is still continuing.
How many inches are we talking about, Jim?
Well, I'm looking at my front deck, which right now appears to have like 15, and storm isn't due to end till sometime this afternoon, and so it's suddenly I'm not quite as enthusiastic as I once was about, Frozen 2, because now it's real. Now I got to go out and shovel it. But speaking of Sunday night, did you catch The Simpsons this past Sunday night?
I did. I actually watched it after you had brought it up when we were talking yesterday. So, yeah, it was really interesting.
For those of you who didn't catch the show, this was a Flanders-specific show. In fact, what was the title? Todd, Why Hast Thou Forsaken Me? And it was about Ned Flanders' son Todd having a crisis in faith. But
well, did you notice the intro was the Flanderses, and then right underneath it said now owned by Disney?
Well, I have to admit, I love that because from what I've been hearing, the folks at Gracie Films have basically been told, look, if you want to make fun of Disney, make fun of Disney. Feel free to lean into this. This supposedly comes down from on high, from Iger's office, as in, I want to be able to show to the world that Disney has a sense of humor about itself. And there's this kind of weird parallel between Michael Eisner supposedly told Jim Henson, back when Disney first was trying to, had begun the acquisition in late 89, early 1990. And it was just the whole notion of, no, just be the Muppets, just make fun of Disney as much as you want. So, that for example is why. Did you ever see that 35th anniversary special for Disneyland where it was actually directed by John Landis and they had Miss Piggy as Cinderella?
No.
Oh, yeah, you have to check
Walt
this
Disney
out.
World 30th anniversary?
There you go.
Okay.
35th.
35th. Okay. And John Landis didn't kill any of the Muppets while directing this, did he?
There was no helicopter involved.
Okay,
but thank you for bringing that up. God. Well, we're starting on a high note here, folks. But anyway, the other thing I've been hearing in regard to The Simpsons is, of course, we talked on the last episode about the first couple of seasons episodes were reframed for the letterboxing thing, and they've announced, okay, in 2020 we'll get them back in the original format. But they're still talking about, I guess the folks at Disney's new subscription streaming service are just kind of astounded at how well The Simpsons are doing. How many episodes are being downloaded and watched.
Right.
Well,
they're not downloading Noel, so people got to download something.
Oh, you had to bring up Noel. I've been trying to do my due diligence, folks. I've done the Imagineering documentary. I've done The Mandalorian. And so I was trying to circle back on some of the high-profile first month shows. So first and foremost, got to see Lady and the Tramp, the redo, which was solid. Well produced. Interesting update, giving Lady a much more active role in her story. Overall, like the production values of it. On the other hand, Noel, which I think Drew and I have talked about previously. This is a script that Disney's had for 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, and I think it was supposed to open theatrically 2 years ago. So,
yeah.
It was on the calendar.
Wow. Well, was it produced at that point, or just sort of?
Yeah, it was. I remember they did a set visit for it a couple of years ago, where people actually came out and visited the set, and then they were like, "Well, that movie's going." I don't know if those set visits actually ended up running anywhere, but Yeah, they were like, okay, well, it's going to be Disney Plus instead. I mean, I think that probably should have been the decision they made for Nutcracker, too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was too much merchandise already in the pipeline for that one. They kind of had to release it.
Yeah, I get that. I
yeah,
get that.
but I mean, if you don't want to watch your holiday programming on Disney Plus, you can always go over to Freeform, at least, right?
Well, and in fact, it's interesting you mentioned that because Freeform, and again, getting back to the whole, Disney celebrating The Simpsons, I think we mentioned part of their 31 Days of Halloween program event, the sort of bookend for the 25 Days of Halloween event. They were doing a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror marathon, several of them over the course of October. And it turns out that, for December, they're also doing Simpsons holiday-a-thons where they group 4 of the holiday episodes together and, we'll do a 2-hour block. There was one that ran on December 1st, another on December 3rd, and well, that'll be later today, and then one that's running tomorrow afternoon. But what's kind of intriguing to me is, so here's The Simpsons, and again, they're putting them in the front window on Disney Plus and Freeform. Have you seen what they're doing with Family Guy?
No, I haven't.
Well, that's because Family Guy seems to only air on Freeform after midnight. And in fact, what I found intriguing, it typically shows up on Tuesdays, and it'll run after the 700 Club, which I'm trying not to read too much into.
That is hilarious.
I have to admit.
Can you recap people on the 700 Club issue or controversy or whatever?
Well, again, when Disney bought the Family Channel away from Pat Roberts' broadcasting facility, one of the terms of the contract there was that they had to continue to air the 700 Club twice daily. And I want to say, does it air like at 11 o'clock in the morning and then again at 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah, I was just looking at the Freeform guide right now, which they're airing Rise of the Guardians later today, Jim. So if you get snowed in, you've got a great underrated animated film to watch. But yeah, it's like in the morning and at night they do it. And this was a contractual obligation?
Yeah,
okay.
And in fact, the title cards that they put up prior to the 700 Club just basically say to the effect of, okay, we're obligated to air this, and try not to burn down the place while we're gone. Because remember, the whole conceit of Freeform is the becomers, the age 14 to 28, I want to say.
Right, becomers, yes.
But when we talk about Freeform, like in its 25 Days of Christmas programming event, it's worth noting that this year they scored something kind of huge as part of that programming block, which is the cable broadcast rights, the exclusive cable broadcast rights, mind you, to the Rankin-Bass specials, Frosty the Snowman and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And this is kind of intriguing because for years, these have been, it only aired on CBS. They had the exclusive network rights locked up. In fact, this past Friday, Frosty aired, it was the 50th anniversary of that Rankin-Bass special airing. And, it debuted, December 7th, 1969. Beloved by the 18 to 49 demographic, and they can count on it doing steady numbers year in, year out. But what's kind of intriguing is how Freeform wound up with these rights, Drew. I mean, have you ever tuned in when they were running those weird Rudolph sequels like Rudolph Shiny New Year?
Yeah, and wasn't there like Frosty Returns and things? Yeah.
Yeah, Frosty's Winter Wonderland. That's when he meets his wife, and in fact, I think the one that always, it's terrible. The Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. This is literally a 90-minute long stop motion show. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's if you're a fan of that style of animation, it's got some beautiful stuff. It's got some wonderfully designed characters. But it's got the worst story in the history of Christmas specials. But anyway, last year, the MC Network swooped in and they have their own programming event. I guess it's called The Best Christmas Ever. And they stole out from under Disney the broadcast rights to not only those three Rankin-Bass specials, but also a lot of their lesser-known specials. I mean, are you familiar with Nestor, the long-eared Christmas donkey, Drew?
I do remember Nestor the Long-Eared Christmas Donkey. I mean, I cannot tell you one specific thing about it, but...
Okay, how about the Leprechaun's Christmas Gold? That one ring a bell?
That one, no, does not ring a bell.
Well, the last of them, and again, this was a longer one of the bunch, The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. This one came out in 1985. It's based on the L. Frank Baum book, and what's kind of interesting is Rankin-Bass actually brought it to the market in December of 85 because they were thinking, wow, Disney's bringing out Return to Oz in the summer of 85, and there's going to be a lot of interest in L. Frank Baum stuff, so we should be ready. We should have a special, based around an L. Frank Baum story, and we all remember what happened to Return to Oz. But anyway, what's kind of interesting, Life and Adventures of Santa Claus is the very last of the stop-motion shows that Rankin-Bass did. In fact, they actually closed down their production arm in March of 1987. And then it just gets kind of interesting. Warner Brothers acquires the bulk of the Rankin-Bass film library, with the exception of the original Rudolph and Frosty special, along with The Little Drummer Boy and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. That's the one with Fred Astaire and all that.
That one's good.
Okay, so how did Freeform end up with the broadcast rights to these specific specials? Again, the original Rudolph, the original Frosty, and then The Little Drummer Boy, which, by the way, is the most depressing Christmas special known to man. Have you ever seen this?
I'm sure I've seen it, but I don't remember it. What makes it so depressing?
Well, at one point, you get the backstory of the Little Drummer Boy, and you actually get to see the bandits that are out in the desert that kill his family. And in fact, at one point, I want to say they open a window or a door, and this really cliched, like out of 1930s and 40s, depiction of Arabs, sort of leans into the camera like, "Rah!" And then, and then you cut away to the you hear the family being killed off screen, and it's just sort of like,
dear God.
No. No, I mean, that's the thing. This is why the Little Drummer Boy doesn't smile, all right? Because his family's been killed by desert bandits. And it's one of these weird things where it's narrated by Greer Garson. It features, I swear to God, Drew, the Vienna Boys Choir.
Oh, God. Did you see that Vienna Boys Choir movie that Disney made in the 60s is on Disney Plus? Whatever that horrible movie is.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, this is all right. Anyway, back to Rudolph. So, okay, so Freeform winds up with the rights with a really kind of convoluted story. Just basically, the original Rudolph airs on NBC. In fact, this year is the 55th anniversary of its debut. But it airs not as a standalone holiday special, but as an episode of what's known as the General Electric Fantasy Hour. So GE retained certain rights to this show because it went out initially under the Fantasy Hour label. So in 1971, General Electric used these rights as leverage to persuade Rankin-Bass to sell them outright, that animation studio's four most famous and popular holiday specials. So again, that's the original Rudolph from 64, The Little Drummer Boy from 68, Frosty the Snowman from 69, and finally, Santa Claus Comes to Town from 1970, and which explains why in the mid-1970s we get all of these shows like Rudolph's Shiny New Year, or, I swear to God, this exists, Drew, The Little Drummer Boy Book 2, because the first
which is airing on ABC or on AMC this holiday season, Jim. If you want to take a look, I was just looking up all the show times for this. So
and that one actually kind of intrigues me because that features as one of the voices in the show, Zero Mistel.
Oh, really?
Yep, yeah. He's actually great fun and a really terrible special.
Okay.
But again, Shiny New Year, we get Frosty's Winter Wonderland, we get Frosty and Rudolph's and Frosty Christmas in July. And the idea Rankin-Bass is making these things with the hope that Well, they're not the original, but but maybe the sequel will be the equal, and then the networks will buy these things and re-air them. Okay, we jump ahead to 1988, which is when Lorne Michaels, the producer of Saturday Night Live, persuades GE to sell him the rights to Rankin-Bass's most famous and popular holiday specials, which Lorne then puts out on his Broadway video label.
Okay.
And then, 96, Golden Books Family Entertainment purchases Broadway Video's Family Entertainment Library outright. And again, that did, among those titles is Rudolph, Frosty, Little Drummer Boy, and Santa Claus Comes to Town. 2001, Golden Books Family Entertainment rebrands itself as Classic Media. In 2012, DreamWorks Animation buys Classic Media and names this new arm of the company DreamWorks Classics. And then in 2016, DreamWorks Animation gets bought by NBC Universal, which brings us to 2018. AMC goes behind Disney's back and acquires the cable rights to all those lesser-known Rankin-Bass specials from Warner Brothers. Which leaves Freeform kind of in the lurch. So Disney has to fill this hole in Freeform's schedule. So it reaches out to NBC Universal and inquires about whether the cable broadcast rights to Rudolph, Frosty, the Little Drummer Boy, and Santa Claus Comes to Town are available. And NBC Universal turns around, reaches out to CBS, which again holds the network broadcast rights. And these two multimedia conglomerates reach an agreement that as long as Frosty and Rudolph get to air on CBS first each holiday season, and more to the point that a certain period of time passes before the Freeform airs these specials. I was told it's at least 4 days.
Okay.
But again, what to me was kind of intriguing is that once these terms were agreed to, CBS had no problem with NBC Universal selling the cable rights to Frosty to Disney, who then aired these holiday specials on Freeform. And I bring up the story because every so often, I mean, you've got to have heard the same rumors, Drew, to the notion that Disney will every so often reach out to NBC Universal Comcast and inquire about the theme park rights to the Marvel characters.
Right.
And, and the story always is that, the Universal Parks are making so much money out of the sale of merch, inside of Island Adventures, Marvel Superhero Island area, that this isn't just going to happen. But it's like, you look at this Rankin-Bass deal that literally just happened this past May. And face it, representatives of these two companies talk all the time, especially now that Disney owns Fox and has become, this absolute behemoth in the entertainment industry. And look, I'm not saying that Comcast or NBC Universal will surrender the theme park rights to Marvel anytime soon, but these two multi-billion-dollar corporations cut deals and trade rights for things all the time. And and eventually Disney is going to have something that Comcast or NBC Universal really wants, like Al Michaels. I mean, you remember that story,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Which, again, as I understand it, really shook Al Michaels, who was this veteran sportscaster who was at NBC and, it had really achieved something, in his time as a sports broadcaster. But here, what was it? NBC had just acquired the rights to, what was it, Sunday night football from the NFL?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Okay. And so, they wanted to assemble, the right broadcast team for that. So they turned around to ESPN and said, okay, so what would it take for you guys to release, Al Michaels from his contract? And so the folks at NBC go up the food chain to Disney management and say, okay, what would you want from them if we were going to release Al Michaels? And Disney management conferred and came back and said, we'd like the copyright to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit back, which, remember, Walt lost in 1928 to what, Pat Powers? I want to say that's the guy who had sort of signed, had the character or took the character out from under Walt and then turned around and sold it to Universal.
Right.
But yeah, that think about it, Drew. that was what, 78 years? Because again, what is it? 2000 February of 2006, Disney announces the deal for that Al Michaels can go to NBC if Oswald comes back to Disney.
I just want to know what lawyers came up with this idea. Like what? Like who was sitting on this concept of having Oswald be traded for Al Michaels? I mean, it's ingenious. Whoever came up with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would be afraid to even bring that up, like in a meeting. Well, what if we traded him for Oswald? But it worked.
It did, and then we got Epic Mickey Game, and Epic Mickey 2, which really didn't do, I think, what the company wanted. But Oswald back in the parks, and they've got the merch, and you get the sense that the company is still looking for something new to do with that character. But face it, Disney. This proves Disney is patient. They will wait decades if they have to. But and eventually there will be something that Comcast and NBC really, really needs. And if this year's Rudolph, Frosty, Little Drummer Boy, and Santa Claus Coming to Town deal is any indication, these two corporate giants will eventually come to terms at some point over Marvel.
Well, yeah, I mean, most recently they shared the rights to the M. Night Shyamalan movie Glass that came out earlier this year.
That's right.
And they're obviously still sharing the Hulk in some capacity. But yeah, are you excited about a new DreamWorks Christmas special that's airing tonight? The new Dragons special?
I wanted to talk about that. Yeah, because I don't know if you've seen sort of parallel to that around the country in various cinemas, there's a How to Train Your Dragon Flight Academy VR experience.
No. I love gimmicky VR experiences, Jim. I can't believe this one passed me by.
Well, definitely Google this, because the idea is that I guess it's a 10 or 15 minute long experience. And the notion is that Hiccup and his crew, you come to visit them in their world, and suddenly there are dragon poachers, and you get enlisted to join them on, flying a dragon to fight the poachers. And, it's just, for me, what's kind of intriguing is that, we've got Hidden World, which came out this summer. We've got this now, How to Train Your Dragon Homecoming TV special. We've got the VR Academy. And then on the far side of this, in 2023, we've got the Epic Universe theme park opening across the way from the Orange County Convention Center. And Universal's kind of made no bones about the fact that will include a How to Train Your Dragon land.
Are they going to be new attractions, or is it going to be stuff that's from like the Abu Dhabi park?
I'm from what I've heard from friends at Universal Creative, my understanding is this will all be brand new.
Cool.
They're doing an outside version. I mean, remember the Abu Dhabi park, the DreamWorks thing is all inside of one giant show building because, of course, that theme park, Cinemagic?
Yeah, whatever it is. The most poorly attended theme park I've ever seen in my life, if the videos are any indication. Do you watch those videos and there's like 2 people walking through it?
Well, I mean, I think also part of the problem there is that every single one of the lands, because of the ridiculous heat in that region of the world, everything has to be indoors and with the air conditioning set on stun. So their Dragonflight attraction is coaster/dark ride that all takes place inside of this giant show building. And that's the difference between what Universal Creative is looking to do in Florida, is they're doing a full-size version of the Village of Berk that you, in sort of a Harry Potter sense, get to walk around in, and there will be 2 and 3 different ride experiences. I want to say 1 dark ride and 1, like Forbidden Journey or Escape from Gringotts size ride experience, plus a spinner or 2, that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess for me, what kind of intrigues me is that it gets a little challenging to go from a Hidden World coming out this summer, Homecoming coming out this week. In fact, it's also for those of you. I'm hoping we get this show up quickly, but it is rerunning on the 8th at 8 o'clock at night. So if you missed the version that airs tonight, and then this VR experience, but that's still 4 years to keep these characters front of mind. Before the park opens Epic Universe opens in 2023, and for me that's also just what fascinates me about these big projects like Frozen 2, where how you keep these characters front of mind, so people then know to go out to buy tickets and that sort of thing. And in fact, Drew, when we get back from our commercial break, we're going to talk a little bit about that, about the promotion of Frozen 2.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Business. We could all use more time. Amazon Business offers smart business buying solutions, so you can spend more time growing your business and less time doing the admin. I can see why they call it smart. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
And we're back. Okay, just to sort of recap here, obviously Frozen 2 has continued its record-breaking run at the box office. The Chris Buck Jennifer Lee movie just broke the record for the highest domestic gross ever achieved over the 5-day long Thanksgiving weekend in North America alone. This Walt Disney Animation Studio production sold 123.7 million worth of tickets, bringing Frozen's domestic box office take to an estimated $287 million. And as I understand it, Disney's own internal projections suggest that sometime today, Frozen will have sold over $300 million worth of tickets in just 12 days of domestic release. Which, to put that in perspective, the original Frozen was released to theaters on November 27, 2013, and it wasn't until January 7, 2014, some 47 days later, that Walt Disney Animation Studios production was able to sell $300 million worth of tickets in North America. So, and if you talk with the marketing people, there's a reason, it's doing as well as it is, because they spent 2 years putting together this sort of D-Day sized promotional campaign. It involved, so many different arms of the Walt Disney Company. And I have to ask Drew, when you were there as part of the company working at Oh My Disney, was there any other film that got this sort of elaborate, pre-planning and push?
No, and you want to actually know an interesting story, that we were actually publishing quizzes about kind of secondary Frozen characters and which ones people liked more. And Walt Disney Animation was taking that information and feeding it into the development of Frozen 2.
Wow.
Which is really kind of an interesting little story that I had forgotten about until now. But, that's why it's like the trolls are in Frozen 2, because they scored so high on this quiz that we put up on Oh My Disney, which is kind of amazing. Yeah, and that was 2015. So, yeah.
I'm kind of inferring by that Wandering Oaken didn't do quite as well,
But he's still in there somewhere in the background, isn't he?
But he gets his own number in the Broadway musical version of Frozen 2, which, by the way, is opening at the Pantages.
I know.
Just this week or thereabouts?
I gotta go.
Yeah. I guess for me, what's weird is that how they built the campaign. I mean, they went high end. I don't know if you saw, for example, the Saks Fifth Avenue thing just last week, where Idina Menzel showed up for the opening of the thing, and they had a 50-person choir to unveil these 6 windows, facing onto Fifth Avenue.
Well, I'm married to someone who used to do those windows, so yeah, we had to take a look and see. what that was like.
What did Katie think?
She liked it. I mean, she was there when it started. One of her windows was the Cinderella windows. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, when they had all the Lily James dresses and everything. So she was there at the beginning of the kind of Disney collaboration with Saks. So she implemented a lot of the things that they still use today, which is kind of fun. So yeah.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Well, I guess what also intrigues me about this one is they have up on the 9th floor what they're calling the Enchanted Forest experience, and I guess in a weird sort of way it's a $5 admission fee plus tax, but it's also whatever they raise from the sales of these tickets go to New York Presbyterian Children's Hospital. So it's like, okay, well, I like that that's where the money's going, but they describe it as an immersive experience that lets participants relive Anna and Elsa's journey in the Enchanted Forest, where they then encounter the elements of earth, fire, water, and again, earth again. I must have left off wind. I'm assuming this is where you can get your broonie, right? By the way, did your broonie ever show up, or
no? Did you send me a broonie?
Well, weren't you saying you were looking for?
Oh, I'm always looking for broonie material, okay. But I've not found anything. But you know what this reminds me of too, that you bring it up, is do you remember when Barney's did that thing for the Paul Ruddish Mickey shorts? And there was a new short that you could only see at Barney's.
Oh, that's right.
Which was so cool. I don't know how many years ago that was, but I just remember going Barney's, which R.I.P. is no longer with us. And has been sold off to some kind of licensing agency that's selling it in Saks, which is hilarious. But
well, speaking of which, did you hear? There are so many empty storefronts right now on Fifth Avenue that the way they're getting around that for this holiday season is they're actually wrapping the exteriors of the empty stores so they look like giant gift boxes.
No.
So it's festive, but it's kind of like a mouthful of false teeth. It's like so.
Oh my God, that's depressing.
I just thought that was, but again, okay. So we got Saks Fifth Avenue, but at the exact opposite end of this thing, we have the Frozen 2 truck tour, which literally just came through the Boston area the weekend that Frozen opened. They had them at one point. They had it was at Gillette Stadium, and they had them in Somerville at Assembly Square. But these are trucks that are skinned with, and I guess there's 4 of them driving around the country. They've been hitting markets like Tampa, Houston, San Diego, and Philadelphia, and of course Boston. And what's kind of interesting is if you encounter the truck and go up, they'll give you a copy, a double-sided mini poster for the Frozen 2 IMAX engagement, and you can get some goodies that are created for this film from Kellogg and Juicy Juice, and by the way, right here on my desk, Drew, I've had this for weeks now, meaning to bring it up in the course of the show. I finally can talk about this thing and get off my desk, but I swear to God, Kellogg's has put out Frozen 2 Collector's Edition cereal, which features leaf and Olaf-shaped marshmallows.
Well, I know that you can't eat that. So what are you doing? This is just $3 that was burning a hole in your pocket.
Pretty much just threw it in the street. But honestly, it's a beautiful box. In fact, I would love to hear Katie's thoughts on it, because it's clearly elaborately printed, because it's got kind of a holographic element that if you shift the box back and forth, you can see, the elemental shapes and snowflakes, sort of glittering below, and Elsa's on one side, Anna's on the other, Olaf is off to the side. And speaking of Olaf, did you catch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade this year, or?
Well, I turned it on, but it was so irritating that I had to turn it off. I mean, I don't know how anyone, including you, Jim, watches this thing for hours on end, especially with what's Al Roker in a bicycle helmet getting harassed by Butter and old man Chicago playing a song. I mean, it was just too much for me, Jim.
Well, no, you have to understand the key to watching Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is you're not really watching it. You're cooking,
right?
You're preparing food, and every so often you'll sort of look over and like, well, what's going on? And some again, you're right. There'll be some sort of weird thing where Al Roker's about to get in a street fight with the guy dressed as a stick of butter.
Right. I know how
weird.
much you love out of context Broadway musical performances, Jim. It's the cast of Beetlejuice. Oh my!
But the interesting thing is they rewrote the opening number for the show, so it would entirely reference Thanksgiving. That in fact there was at one point there was a lyric to the fact that it's a weird day to die, but on the other hand you get out of washing the dishes. So and they did the exact same thing at the Tonys. They created a version of the opening number that referenced that they were at the Tonys. And again, we were just talking about promotion. Whoever is handling the promotion for Beetlejuice is a genius, because the irony is, what was it? Tootsie took home more awards than Beetlejuice, but Tootsie is closing in January, whereas Beetlejuice actually sold so many tickets on the back of the successful number that was presented at the Tonys that they basically did the same number again, only this time at Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, figuring that there were all these people sitting at home, just like you mentioned, Drew, sort of, kind of watching this car wreck of a holiday special. And it's just sort of like, well, that kind of looks like fun. And, it's like, okay, we're taking the family wants to go into New York around the holidays to see a show. And are the tickets available at Beetlejuice? And it looks like Beetlejuice is actually going to wind up being this huge,
Oh yeah, I saw that they're breaking records for the theater every week. It's crazy.
They are, but they literally would. I guess they didn't get strong enough reviews. They didn't have a strong enough advance. They were within weeks of closing, but they did that. They rolled the dice. They did that one number on the Tonys, and that's what turned it all around. Whereas the folks from Tootsie, even today, a lot of folks in promotion, it's like you picked the wrong number. If you'd done the right number on that show, coupled with the awards, you would be running now. But again, the show's closing in January.
Well, let me tell you, all Tim Burton-based musicals are not created equal, Jim. As someone who sat through the Big Fish musical a few years ago. Woof.
What? Really? The dancing elephant backsides weren't entertaining?
I mean, the sets were beautiful. That's all I gotta say. The sets were beautiful. But other than that. But anyway, what else happened during this?
Getting back to and only entertainment you can see in New York. Of course, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is famous for its balloons, and there was a lot of controversy the day or so beforehand because the weather, and in fact the weather that was heading our way, it's happening right now, about whether it was going to be too windy to bring the balloons out.
Yeah, they were very low to the ground, I noticed.
Oh, God,
I saw the speaking of animated things, the Snoopy in Space balloon was like just above the ground.
No, that's it exactly. And I love that you brought that up because the Olaf balloon, which by the way Chris Buck, co-director of Frozen and Frozen 2, designed, and it's 60 feet long, 59 feet wide, and it takes 90 handlers to control even under the best of conditions. And so again, same thing. The orders were, okay, the balloons can be in the parade, but they have to be low to the ground. And so they have, what they ended up doing with Olaf is basically they are dragging him through the streets face down. In fact, if you were watching the Macy's parade, they had him so low to the ground that his carrot nose, which I'm always find these fact sheets hilarious, but it's just sort of like Macy's put out a fact sheet to the effect of, Olaf's nose is 3 snowboards long. But it's dragging the ground. And, to the point where it seriously looks like Olaf has just been caught shoplifting at the Macy's flagship on 34th Street. And, the NYPD has wrestled him to the ground and is about to cuff his little wooden arms. But again, that's all part of Disney's promotional effort for Frozen 2 and why we're still headed out to theaters. And I just have to admit, I was kind of wondering what Josh Gad was thinking, but, because especially, I guess, did you see the tweet where I guess Idina Menzel was appearing in the on the float that was going to be directly behind the Olaf balloon in the parade, and Adina was like, geez, I hope he's not gassy. And Josh came back, I make no promises.
Well, nobody has been trumpeting Frozen 2 quite like Josh Gad on Twitter. I mean,
I have to admit, I have been enjoying it, and I have to admit, I was pleased for him to see when the Annie nominations came out just yesterday, and he got, what is it? He got a nomination for Best Voice Acting in a Feature, along with, Jenny Slate, who voices Gidget in Secret Life of Pets 2, and Tony Hale, who does Forky in Toy Story 4. What are your thoughts on the Annie nominations this year, Drew? Because I know you have to be, like me, kind of upset that Primal, Gennady Tartakovsky's thing for Cartoon Network, didn't seem to get any love.
Yeah, I don't understand. That was really my biggest, what WTF moment, because it's like, why go out on a limb like that? Why do something that is so purely, obviously aimed at animation fans when it's not going to be acknowledged at all? Mm-hmm. I think it was a travesty. I cannot believe that it was not nominated. I don't think it was nominated for anything.
Yeah, I was just going through the list this morning before we started to record and didn't see anything.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you have to acknowledge that times are changing when you look at the fact that here's Netflix with 36 nominations, and that's the studio that got the most. I mean, Disney was second with 28, and as Cartoon Brew pointed out in its coverage of the nominations, quite a step down for Disney, because what was it, back in 2018, they got 42 Annie nominations.
Yeah. Well, have you watched I Lost My Body yet?
No,
okay.
No, that's again, I had to watch, Noelle and Lady and the Tramp, and after Noelle, I had to lie down for a while because, you don't get over a movie like that very quickly.
Right.
For me, again, I love the fact that Laika, which had to feel kind of bruised this summer, given, how poorly, Missing Link performed at the box office. That got lots of love from the Annie nominee committee. In fact, that film got 8 nominations in the feature category, which was equal to what Frozen 2 did.
Yeah.
And I know we were talking about this on the last show about Jon Favreau's Lion King and how Disney keeps insisting that isn't an animated feature. They group it in their live action category, and the Annie nominated committee, it's like, okay, fine, sure. That's what you say. We're not nominating it for anything, And who was the gentleman who voiced Timon? Billy
Eichner, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but shouldn't they have at least nominated him? I mean, he's put
amazing.
A really fun spin on that character.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just look again. I was glad to see Klaus do as well as it did. Likewise, to me personally, as a fan of Mau Mau Heroes of Pure Heart, it was nice to see that get some recognition on the television side of things for its production design. But at the same time, you were just talking about the How to Train Your Dragon Homecoming special. Mm-hmm. And it always kind of intrigues me to see something get nominated that hasn't been shown publicly yet.
Right.
Sort of like Spies in Disguise. I mean, Spies in Disguise snagged a nomination for Best Design in a Feature. And yet, that film won't be out in theaters for 3 weeks yet. And as I understand it, they're still tweaking it. So, does it make sense that something that literally is still a work in progress can be screened for award consideration?
Well, I mean, maybe that's the thing, is maybe the editing wasn't finished and some other things are finished, but you can see the characters, I guess. So you say, well, it can be a character design. We can nominate it for that. But yeah, I was also a little disappointed that Josh Cooley didn't get nominated for directing Toy Story 4, because I thought he did a really amazing job. He really pushed the visuals in a really interesting way, and I'm very disappointed in that, because I think he did an awesome job. But that's me.
I have to agree, given how that landed, particularly that last 15 minutes or so, where it just, in the end, I'm going to have no problem slotting Toy Story 4 right alongside the first three films. That they had, they still have that wonderful emotional resonance. And you're right, Josh did some great work there, but I don't know, I also have to wonder, given in a year where, Lego Movie 2, the second part, and, Secret Life of Pets 2, and Toy Story 4, and Frozen 2, that in a year with this many sequels, the folks at the Annies, at some point, in order to create space to honor things like I Lost My Body and Klaus, just sort of like somebody's got to not be recognized. And I unfortunately, that Josh, found himself in that crunch position.
It's a very interesting year. Yeah,
it is. Getting back to Spies in Disguise for a moment, I wanted to ask, have you seen the most recent trailer for the Spies in Disguise? It has this very Mission Impossible gag moment in it where there's a sports car kind of spinning out of control, sliding sideways toward the hero with its front door open, and at the very last moment, he just sort of bends over and slips into the driver's seat, and the door shuts behind him, and he drives off. But it's just, mind you, of course, if Tom Cruise were doing it, in one of the Mission Impossible movies, he'd have to run for a great distance before this happened.
Right.
I'm fascinated by how Hollywood works, because the Playmobil, the movie trailer, had the exact same gag. And it's like, the same exact setup, a secret agent, stepping off, a sports car spinning toward him with the door open, and the same thing, just effortlessly steps into it and drives off. And it's just sort of like, how is it that this specific gag winds up in two animated features basically coming out in the same window of time?
I mean, Jim, who knows? I mean, maybe they shared some personnel. But maybe we have a little bit of a, Aladdin / Richard Williams Thief in the Cobbler scenario, too. We don't know, Jim. We don't know what happened.
That is a very interesting point. Speaking of which, though, we've got the brand new trailer for the James Bond No Time to Die dropping on Good Morning America tomorrow morning. Have you heard anything about, because face it, we now have two Mission Impossible movies looming. Any news at all about teaser trailer or anything like that?
No, they haven't started shooting yet. So it'll be a little while. But did you see the Black Widow trailer today? Because that had very Mission Impossible vibes, I thought.
Well, that's the thing. Just sort of like, face it, they've now sort of set the template. And think about it. It wasn't all that long ago where it was Bourne that was sort of like redefining what we were going to, thinking of the spy movies, and now it really is. It's like, how do we top what they've done, with Mission Impossible Fallout, and that sort of thing.
Should that theater in Universal be the Mission Impossible Stuntacular instead of the Bourne Stuntacular? I'm not here to say, Jim. I'm just going to say that might be a more entertaining show for the theme park visitors in Orlando. I'm just saying, Jim.
Speaking of which, did you see that, I guess, just this past week, they sent out notice to annual pass holders at Universal, basically asking them if they wanted to be in the pre-show for the Bourne Stuntacular?
Oh, God. No, I didn't see that. What an honor.
So you're telling me you're not buying the plane ticket?
No.
Okay. All right, just asking. So, okay, well, when last we talked, you were headed out to interview Paul Hirsch, who, by the way, I'm still going through his memoir a long time ago in a cutting room far, far away, and there's still so many amazing stories in that thing. So, did we get any cool news stories out of him? Or
yeah, we did get some cool news stories. I mean, he talked at length, and you'll love this, Jim, because I know that you and John Candy were tight back in the day, but he talks about all of these scenes that they filmed for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles that they had to cut. Because if you read in the book, the original cut was 3 hours and 45 minutes. He talked, we were rolling, Paul just recounting the things that they were doing in these scenes. And we get into Mission Impossible, but we get into a lot of other things, Mission to Mars, all of this Brian De Palma stuff. I don't think Paul had any idea that movie was based on a theme park attraction, so you'll appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. In fact, isn't that the one where he and De Palma have the falling out on?
Yes,
Or...
yeah, I think that, but now they're talking again, so it had a happy ending, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Okay. Because again, honestly, folks, it's an absolutely wonderful book that touches on so many, classic films. And again, in fact, what's kind of intriguing is that Planes, Trains, and Automobiles really has become sort of a holiday favorite. And that section where it talks about how Paul literally figured out how to turn this into a movie. This all of this footage, and in fact, again, I think we talked on that last show about all of that stuff of Steve Martin looking out a train window pensively.
Yeah.
And and how that literally became the key to solving the movie. But anyway, don't want to spoil it. Just go pick up a copy of that, or more to the point, go listen to Light the Fuse, a wonderfully entertaining podcast. On the other hand, we have some other podcasts here at Jim Mill Media. We got Disney Dish with Len Testo. We got Looking at Lucasfilm with Dan Z.
If you're really bored, you listen to the Dan Z one. If you literally have nothing else going on in your life, you listen to Dan Z.
Yeah, you're off the Christmas tree first. Okay. We got Marvelous Disney with Aaron Adams. We got the Universal Joint podcast that I do with Dustin Fuse. And we have our Disney merch podcast, I Want That, with Michelle Valladolid. Tell you what, if you could do Drew and I a favor and head on over to iTunes and rate and recommend not only this podcast, but Light the Fuse. That helps us get additional ears and eyeballs. On the other hand, if you really, really, really like what you're hearing on Fine Tuning, please head over to Bandcamp and subscribe. And provided I can actually dig myself out from under all this snow, and it's still coming down, Drew, we will be back with a new show this time next week, if I'm not eaten by mammoths. Anyway, till then, thanks for listening. Have a good night.